I'm Erica from Bronx, New York.
I'm Meredith from Phoenix, Arizona.
Bringing you the latest in news and politics.
Filled with snarky views and pithy commentary. You're listening to the Two Conservative Lesbians Show.
Oh, okay. We are back with our second episode of the Two Conservative Lesbians Show, as Meredith is tying her hair back in a scrunchie and putting on her lip gloss. It's about to be on like Donkey Kong, you know what I'm saying? Like she's putting her war makeup on.
As our listeners can see, the honeymoon phase is over. Now we're just insulting each other constantly.
That's the only way to start the show at this point.
It really is. It's a tradition.
We have that love to hate relationship of each other. It's great. It's great. Okay, so let us begin, and let's begin with your favorite man and mine, the Pauls. The Pauls family.
Oh, God. Do you really want to start calling him my favorite person? You know Mitch McConnell's my favorite person.
That's so true. I apologize. And actually, I'm going to make a statement in a couple of minutes after we go over this story that may or may not annoy you, but it's something that I've been thinking about for the last couple of days. So let's just go over why we're discussing Ron Paul and Rand Paul first before I possibly really stick the last nail in the coffin in our wonderful, wonderful friendship.
We may have to come to blows over this.
We may.
To fly up to New York and find you.
Okay.
All right. So, Independent Journal released a story the other day about Rand Paul's polling, and apparently him taking swipes at every other person that is potentially running for president is not actually doing anything good for his polling. His polls have been in since November of 2013 to January of this year, his percentage share in polls have slipped over 4%, which looks like it's kind of a small drop, but if you're looking at the trend, it's continuing a downward trajectory in his polls. Apparently, he is not the presidential favorite anymore.
Right, and at this point, do we really see or assume that Mitt Romney, should he get the nomination, would run with him?
I don't know. This is the reason why I don't know. I would have been okay with a Rand Paul
really?
VP
You would have?
voice. I would have been okay with it. But I don't think that it's an intelligent move anymore, because Rand Paul's father, the illustrious Ron Paul, refuses to shut his face. He keeps saying things that are horrible. The other day he released a post written talking about how America is a fascist police state. Great. And now the Ron Paul Institute for Peace and Prosperity, which I suppose Ron Paul could try to claim he has nothing to do with, but really, his name is splattered all over everything they do. They released a blog post on Wednesday that said that the terrorist attacks on Charlie Hebdo had many of the characteristics of a false flag operation. Now, in this article, they also specify that they believe that the attack on the World Trade Centers was an inside job and a false flag attack as well. So really, this is not looking good for the Pauls. I don't think he's helping his son at all.
Well, I'm not really surprised at Ron Paul's accusation about America being a police state, simply because knowing where he falls with his foreign policy, obviously that is what he believes America is today. So that to me is not surprising. But I don't know, that's the reason why I'm very nervous about Rand Paul still. It's unfortunate for him that he happens to have a father who is Ron Paul, because I think maybe if not for his father, I would probably be more secure in being okay with a Rand Paul as VP, but I'm really nervous that he would get that kind of power and the wolf in sheep's clothing will come out and we will all feel punked.
Yeah, exactly.
Feel like we just got played. So I'm just... I would not accept
worries
that
me too.
as a VP.
That worries me too, and that's my real problem in this situation, is that if he does not share his father's views, if he wants to make this a serious run for president or a serious run for, potentially being a VP, any of those things, he needs to come out and, say that he does not agree with his father. He needs to call his father out and specify where he doesn't agree with his father. Until he does that, all I can see is Ron Paul 2.0. Because he has made comments in the past that make it seem like he agrees more with his father than he lets on. And just because he's changed his views publicly in the last few months means nothing to me, because anything you do in the 6 months before announcing a presidential run, I don't believe any of it anymore.
Right, and in that same light, I will say that I don't want Rand Paul as VP so much that I'm willing to accept a Mitch McConnell as VP. Like, let's go the same route that this president did and pick an old white dude to be VP the way he did. And I would be A-okay 100% behind a McConnell and Mitt Romney ticket. That's how much I don't want Rand Paul as VP.
That's amazing. I cannot even, I don't know what to say anymore. You're destroying my entire worldview of you.
But that wasn't the thing that I wanted to say. I hesitate to bring this up. But do you think that if Mitt Romney doesn't win the nomination, will he become like the next Bob Dole, who kind of just runs every election just because that's what's expected of him until he becomes old and gray and senile? I feel like that's what he's gonna end up tripping into if he doesn't win this time.
I don't think that's gonna be it, because for Bob Dole, I think it was just that running for president was his profession.
And it seems like Mitt Romney is, 3 times. If you don't get it this time, seriously, if he comes back a 4th time, I'm sorry, Meredith, but he is gonna be Bob Dole 2.0.
But I don't think he will come back a 4th time. I think that he'll bow out gracefully if he didn't get the nomination at this point. Which I really hope that he does get the nomination, because I don't want to have to deal with a world in which Mitt Romney will never be president. That would make me really, really sad. But I don't think that the thing about Mitt Romney that I always have appreciated is that he doesn't want to be president. Not in the same way that, Hillary Clinton or Barack Obama or even John McCain wanted to be president. They want the power. They want to be able to do things and change things. And Mitt Romney is more of the persuasion, I think, that he knows that he's a good president and he could do good things, but he doesn't really want the power.
Right, but at the same time, I think my concern is not so much that he doesn't want to be president, but Mitt Romney is not exactly a loser in terms of everything that he does and everything that he touches, you can say, turns to gold. And the presidency seems to be the one thing in his whole life that he hasn't acquired and that he hasn't come out smelling like roses in. And I'm afraid that regardless of the fact that he doesn't want to be president, if he doesn't get it this time, he might enter into that mentality of he's going to keep going for it until he wins it, because it's the one thing, that one mark against him in his whole life of doing good deeds and being the good man, that he couldn't get it. So it's like, I'm just really worried that that's what's going to happen, that he always wins, but this is the one thing that he didn't.
On his own, he might do that, because it might that particular viewpoint might happen. I agree, but I do not think his wife would let him, because Ann Romney is behind all of the blonde hair and the smiles. Cookies is terrifying. I don't think she would let him keep running after this point.
Well, the fact that I could have sworn said unequivocally the last time that she didn't want him to run and that he wasn't running, and now he is running, it's kind of like, what's going on here? Like, are we having a miscommunication going on?
Well, when it comes down to that, I think that had a lot to do with exactly what I said, is that he doesn't want to be president. And neither of them were interested in running this campaign again until they saw what our field of candidates looked like. And our field of candidates is, quite honestly, pathetic outside of Mitt Romney, in my opinion. So when you have such a really uncomfortable set of people running for president, he had to look at that. His wife had to look at it and say, okay, maybe we need to go for this again, because I think maybe the country needs us too.
Are you saying Ben Carson is not, or Dr. Ben Carson is not a good enough candidate for president? Is that what you're saying?
I am saying that.
Are you saying Chris Christie is not good enough?
Oh God, yes.
Well, you know what? You just
Chris
have
Christie's
your standards, or
just
Jeb Bush.
thing.
Are you saying Jeb Bush is not your man?
I'm saying that anyone who uses a first name that's just their initials smushed together is not a good choice for president.
And here I thought you were going to go with, I refuse to endorse another Bush dynasty.
I didn't endorse the first Bush because I was like 10.
True.
But no. But that is where Jeb Bush gets his name. James Edward Bush. Jeb. Who does that? Seriously.
He does, because he's cool like that, yo. What do you know?
Uh-huh. Yeah, sure, whatever. Okay.
Okay, anyway, moving on to more important people and things, like the Pope. What did the Pope do this time?
What does the Pope ever do? It just pisses me off.
Hey, you're not the only one. My mom is a devout Catholic, and she always talks about how that is not her Pope, so you don't gotta tell me.
He makes so much problems.
He does.
So he makes mock other religions, that freedom of speech has limits, and you shouldn't speak badly to other religions, or if you do, you should expect, like, recourse for it. And he specifically said that, like, if my friend here said something rude about my mother, he should expect to be punched. And I'm just thinking, that's not a healthy way to look at freedom of speech. That if you say something that somebody doesn't like or finds rude, that you should expect a violent reaction. Like, that just should be the way it is. That you should expect to be punched or shot or anything else. That's not okay.
Yeah, I can't really speak on that, even as a religious person, as a Christian, as an Episcopalian that I am. I have no idea where he was coming from in making that statement. I don't know.
It doesn't. And when you look at it in stark contrast, you have someone like Salman Rushdie, who I respect quite a bit. He's had death threats against him from Islamic leaders for years because of the things he said about Islam. And he came out and he said, that the moment someone says, I believe in free speech, but I stop listening. The point about it is that the moment you limit free speech, it's not free speech. The point about it is that it's free, said Rushdie at a speech at the University of Vermont. And that's exactly the truth. You can't limit it, and you can't say, oh, you should expect violence as a result. You should just, be ready for that. And you should stop talking if you think you're going to get a violent reaction, because that's not the way this works. You have to be able to speak out against people, specifically violent people.
Right, I completely agree. And
Russia.
I just randomly hit the record button, and all you said was Russia. I'm like, what? Okay, yes, we're going to move on now.
You asked where we were in the stories.
Right, I got it now. Okay, there was just there was like a silence, and then all of Russia. Okay.
You can edit it.
Hey, editing is what I do. I might not edit this part, but I will edit the part before this part. So, okay, so let's discuss Russia, because, there are BFFs, and I'm sure sooner or later we will be emulating all that they do, and we will say we should start living more like the Russians do, because they're smart and they're geniuses, and they know how to solve problems. And one of the problems that Russia has been having, and other countries, like the United States, if you have this sort of problem, I suggest you listen up, because Russia came up with the solution. So they've been having traffic accidents, and, traffic accidents are bad because they lead to death, and injuries of all sorts and all kinds, and they must put a stop to them. And what is the best way to put a stop to traffic accidents than to ban